Hey guys, welcome to this week's lesson segment on Weekly Outdoor Plus. Jase Hintz here with you again, and as I told you guys last week, we went over all the different ways to set up your bow for hunting and all the different options to put on it and what's more beneficial. Well, this week we're going to go over releases and what kind of different hunting releases there are and what's going to work for you and what the positive and negatives about them are. The main two differences are your index finger and your thumb trigger releases. The index finger is what the common person basically calls like a hunting release. You got a lot of control over your index finger, which a lot of people end up not shooting as well with, because when they get nervous they end up either punching it or flinching while they're doing it and anticipating their shot. Where the thumb trigger, you have a lot more self-control and you lock it in a lot easier and you can make more of a true good shot while you're aiming at the animal, which is a lot more beneficial in my opinion. The other thing that is really big to think about is even thumb triggers, you can get wrist straps for them, and same with your index finger ones. The one downfall on that is when you're sitting in your stand, or if you're in a ground blind, it's not as big a deal, but it's always hanging from your wrist, and it's so easy to forget that it's there and hit your hand on some metal, and your release is going to be hitting all this metal and it's louder. And then the other thing too is, I mean, with the ones that you don't have on your wrist, if you don't grab them consistently, the thumb triggers are always pretty consistent, but the index finger ones, you can grab them inconsistently, and sometimes it'll be harder to reach your trigger. So you have to think about different things like that. And I recommend shooting quite a bit with whatever release you're actually going to hunt with, just so you can get comfortable with it and get more in touch with where it's going to be on your finger, where you're going to lock your hand in, and the whole 9 yards like that. They're not really going to shoot, if you know how to shoot them both correctly, they're going to shoot the exact same. The only other thing is when you're buying a release, that's one thing I would say please invest a little bit more in, because the more high quality release you get, the more you really get bang for your buck. It's going to have less trigger travel, and when I say that, it's if you're squeezing your trigger slowly, it will move if it's a cheaper release, and it'll keep moving and moving until it shoots. Well, every time it moves, every guy gets so much more nervous, and you shoot worse. So if you get a little higher end one, it won't have that trigger travel. You can also adjust the tensions on all of your releases, which you should do before you even start shooting, to make sure that it's going to shoot well for you. If you don't have trigger travel on it, try to set it a little bit harder, just to force yourself to squeeze harder and focus more on just shooting instead of the back part of your shot so much. And then once hunting comes along, you can set it wherever you're comfortable with. But if you have a really light set trigger, everybody's scared to put their finger on it, and that's not something that you ever want to encounter. So make sure you're comfortable setting your finger on the release and knowing it's not going to shoot until you want it to. Go over those things on your release this week, see what you can do, see if it's, not making any noise, not squeaking. Think about if you really want a wrist strap release, or if you'd rather have either a thumb trigger without a wrist strap or even an index finger. They sell a lot of them without wrist straps as well, if you look in the right places. Look into all of them. They're all quality. Just make sure, again, pick something that's going to work for you and practice with it as much as you can. Within the upcoming weeks, we're going to go over more hunting tips and a lot of, different arrow selections and broadhead selections and things along those lines. So make sure you guys tune in next week, and hopefully I'll see you then.